And we're live.
Recording now. The red light is on.
Yeah, but actually we're not going to be live.
Are we just riffing?
Riffing? What does that mean?
No plan. Kind of going. Feeling the vibe. That kind of stuff. Well, Ben, I had like something in my head of how I wanted to start this, but there's tornado sirens going off in the background.
Yeah, sorry if y'all hear that. There's a tornado siren, and then may have a little bit of puppy chatter in the background noise, depending on how he does with the
We have no puppy sitter. Hopefully the old Duke doesn't get swept away by the tornado.
No, he'll be okay. But go back to what you were saying before we started about tornadoes and growing up.
When I was young, I wasn't like a super scared kid. Like things didn't really freak me out that much, but tornadoes was one of those things. I mean, I feel like that's pretty normal. Like as a kid, you always have these certain things that really freak you out, whether it be spiders or something, in the shadows or whatever.
Yeah, I'll tell you about mine after this.
But tornadoes, man, tornadoes were the things that would freak me the hell out. And like to the point of like I would cry almost every single time I heard that there was a tornado or heard the sirens. I grew up in the country, so in the city you have those sirens like a lot of the places, and you can kind of hear them wherever you are. In the country, not so much. But still, like there would be points in time where we could definitely hear them off in the distance, and that would just trigger my panic. And you had said like, what did you go through? Like a couple bad experiences, and yeah, for sure. One of them was, and I can't remember where we were, but we were camping, and we were in the camper, and we were with like, my cousins and stuff. Like they had their camper, we had our camper and stuff, but I remember all of us getting into our camper. We had the bigger one, so like all of us came into that one and just kind of hunkered down. And a camper's not,
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good place to
no.
go.
And like the thing is, there's space underneath the camper that like wind can come and like pick it up.
Yeah.
And so that was a really freaky experience. I mean, the whole thing was just shaking back and forth like no other. It was so scary.
Sorry. Where was the camper at?
It was just at a campground. And just this open campground.
Was there trees around it or anything?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there was trees. I can't remember exactly. Like, I'm trying to picture it in my head, but I just remember being, like, just scared shitless, just, like, in the fetal position. So that was, like, one of the scariest tornado experiences that I had. And then another one, we were actually I had cousins that lived up in South Dakota. And South Dakota is part of that tornado alley. It gets pretty bad up there.
Yeah.
And I think even worse than here. And we were driving to see them, and so we're driving up there. It's towards night, so it's getting dark. And if tornadoes, like the clouds get kind of that greenish color, like it's kind of that eerie. You can tell something's off.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it's like one of those signs that you see. And so the clouds were like that greenish color, and it just was real eerie. And then, sure enough, like I remember because my grandparents were driving, they just pointed off in the distance, tornado like a mile away.
You could see it?
Oh, yeah.
Touching down or just forming?
Big, too. Yeah, I mean, it like we watched it just go down from, like, the clouds to hit the ground. You could already see, like, stuff getting just turned up and debris flying. And so we're going the highway, and so we're going the direction we're going, and the tornado's kind of, like, going towards us. But it's, like, off a little bit, so it's not coming right at us. But still, like, I was probably 5 or 6 at that time. So, yeah, like in my head, I'm just thinking, oh, I'm going to die.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Twister.
Yeah.
Where they strap themselves to the pole.
That's another reason
like
why
down
I'm
in
afraid
the ground
of it.
and just wait out and
those
go
Category
right
5s,
through the
man.
tornado. That was crazy. Yeah, but that's what used to come to my mind, too. I didn't have any crazy traumatic experiences like with big tornadoes, but I remember there was one time we were in the truck coming back from like, I don't know, a family friend's house. And we were driving through Belton, and there was like a tornado basically forming. And I know that they touched down, but these weren't ones that like touched down and swept through the town. They just kind of touched down, caused some damage, trees here and there and stuff, a lot of lightning. But I was just real young like that. And it was pretty scary sitting through it in the truck. We like pulled over and found a place to park, but still you feel very vulnerable. In a house, I always felt very secure. Like we had a strong brick house. I felt like it would withstand it pretty well.
Yeah.
And like, I couldn't imagine a camper because I would just think trees falling into it or getting thrown into it. Like that's what really hurts people and causes damage is just debris that just is like catastrophically thrown around. Mm-hmm. It's pretty insane how that's even a thing. Like that's even just something we can't really prevent. It's just a weather occurrence.
There's nothing we can do about it other than, and I mean, it tears things up. I mean, without any warning, it can happen so quickly. And like the thing is that it can touch down and approach you, and you won't even know until it's like right on you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever heard like what a tornado sounds like. It sounds like a tiger. Like that's the best way I can describe it.
But
it sounds like
a kind of constant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this roaring sound that it makes. And then now that I'm thinking about it, there was another time where again I was with my cousins. I was with my aunt. I was visiting my aunt and uncle, and a tornado hit. And I remember us getting into the bathtub, and then my uncle putting the mattress on top of us. So like it was us, my two cousins, or me, my two cousins, and then the mattress on top of us, just in this like big tub
for like an hour.
Yeah, we just sat there, and you don't know what to do, and you're a kid, so you're just all these things are going through your head. You don't see what's going on.
You think about it, you're like, if we're doing all this, it's really that serious. Yeah. You know, like it's not something that you just, oh yeah, hey, stay away from the windows. Like you're in a bathtub, you took a mattress off a bed and put it over the top. You'd be like, you're legitimately worried, like you're fearful.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. It kind of gives you like a perspective. Like we don't run this world. Like we don't control this world. That's Mother Nature. Like I remember like very vividly whenever Colt and I were in San Francisco and there was an earthquake there, and I don't remember what the reading was on the, what is it? Is it like the Richter scale or something like that? That's for earthquakes.
Yeah. It's like a seismic scale.
The size is seismograph is what it is. Anyway, whatever the scale is, I don't remember what it was, but it was like severe enough that my dad saw it on the news in Texas while we were there, and he called and he's like, "Hey, did you feel that earthquake?" And Colt and I were like, "Yeah, we did. We didn't know what that was. We were just in an Airbnb, and I was like laying on the bed. Colt was in the bathroom. Like I just remember it specifically, and the whole place just like shook for like a little bit.
It's weird.
Very like it was very short, but it was very real. Like everything just shook, and I've never felt that before. And Colt immediately like comes out of the bathroom. We're like getting ready to go somewhere, and he's like, "Dude, did you feel that?" And I was like, "Yeah, what was that?" And we're like, that was an earthquake, you know? And you just realize, like, we have all these structures and everything built on this earth, but we just can't control things like that. Like, we're so good at science, and we can kind of predict them. We can predict whenever, like, things are starting to line up and give the opportunity for, like, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. Like, we kind of have an understanding of it, but, like, something we can't do anything about.
You can just predict and give people hopefully enough time to react to it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how well developed the neighborhood is that we were in. It doesn't matter what kind of buildings are around and what kind of like structures are there. Like it just shook everything. Yeah.
Well, it is kind of really cool because I'm a civil engineer. So that's what I studied in college. And there was a few different classes that we talked about just different seismic prevention designs that buildings have now and the things that they're testing on. And you know, I nerd out on things, so like I've watched like YouTube videos over it, and it's kind of cool to see, you know, some of the things that we do to prevent buildings that are, you know, skyscraper sized from falling down. And how, you know, there's these things called resonancy where say the ground's shaking and then the building starts shaking and it hits just this right frequency. It's like a tuning fork. You know, when you hit a tuning fork, it hits that right frequency and it just will destroy itself. So they have these massive dampers that are like underneath the foundation in these big, just open, just areas underneath the ground. And they're these like, I don't know, sometimes they're shaped of like a big ball. It looks like this big ball hanging. And basically what it does is it counteracts like the top of the skyscraper as it's moving. It moves in a counteractive. Yeah. And so it cancels out. It's really cool. It's super scientific and it's super complex on how they design these things, but it's really cool. But for us, it's not like there's no skyscrapers around here that have that. It's expensive. It makes the design more complicated, and we don't have enough. Minus a few instances. I remember one that happened. I think when I was in high school, a very small one that happened like around our area, which is not too far from here, Fort Worth.
Really?
And it was like I think it mainly was felt in Cleburne, which was like a 20-minute, 30-minute drive from Glen Rose. I never felt it, but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah. But that's kind of it's kind of like the snowpocalypse that we had, right? It's just not something we have often enough to be prepared for it. No. Essentially, it's similar to how everybody treated or like how we had to respond as a world to COVID. You know, it wasn't something that really comes around too often, so we're not always on our toes about it and ready for it. Yeah. And it hits us, and we're like, oh, shit, like that could have gone way worse, could have gone better if we were more prepared. But yeah, it's it fascinates me, the kind of things like what you're talking about, the way they're able to design and prepare as best as possible for things like that, because we know it's going to happen at some point and we can't really do anything to prevent it. And even if you can predict it a week, a month, 2-3 months ahead, you don't have enough time to really do anything about it, except maybe if you're going to evacuate people. It's kind of like
get out of the area,
Hawaii and like having volcanoes, or Yellowstone, and like just different things where it's like,
well, that volcano that just erupted, it was somewhere in the Caribbean. I'm trying to remember what the country is or what the island is, but I'm blanking right now. But it was in the Caribbean. It happened just like a month ago. And it might still be erupting, or it might still be activating, but it had a big explosion at one point, and they just evacuated the whole island. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that, and I think I feel like it's happening more often, especially like hurricanes and just these extreme weather events. It's happening a lot. I mean, if you really think about in our lifetime how many extreme weather events, hurricanes especially, I mean, it's every couple of years there's this massive something that happens.
Yeah.
And it shows you how either we can be, there's Duke right there.
Yeah, I think
chiming in.
I'm going to let him in here a little bit, just see if he kind of takes it easy and chills out.
But like what I'm saying is, like, it's just crazy how we can literally get caught with our pants down, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can try to design for it, but which is kind of shitty to think about is, yes, we can design for safer infrastructure to hopefully it not fall down and break and a skyscraper completely collapse, but it's sometimes not cost effective. And so those are taken into account. It's like for COVID, we didn't have maybe the medical ventilators, all the medical devices, all the different precautions we could have had, but at that time, we didn't know that, we should spend a little bit more money on this. And there was warnings, I'm sure, but it's just one of those things where hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Hindsight's always going to be 2020. Yeah. And even if you think about it now and you want to say, well, now that we've gone through COVID, we should be more prepared, and we should, multiply by 10 the amount of masks and things that we have available on hand. Like, how do you know that the next one's going to be airborne transmitted? Like,
we don't know.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's transmitted some other way, and masks don't matter. Or maybe by the time it happens, say 20 years, the masks we have now are going to be outdated.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's very simple, but by then we're probably going to have new technology. Companies are going to have to manufacture these masks. Somebody's going to have to find a place to store them, which is never cheap. Taking up real estate is never going to be cheap, and you're not going to get any return on it anytime soon. It's literally just a, what if kind of thing that you're preparing for. It's going to cost a lot of money, and most likely by the time it happens again, it's not going to be worth anything to have had that stored up, pile of masks or ventilators or whatever it is. Like, you never know.
And the thing is, like, if you think about it, which is kind of crazy, that, I mean, we're talking about like tornadoes and hurricanes and earthquakes that are basically all Mother Nature. It's not really, that doesn't have to do with us necessarily. Probably there's some connection that you can make.
Yeah. Well, okay, but regardless, Mother Nature plays a part.
Right, but it's crazy that something that is possibly man-made, like the virus. I mean, I don't know if it is or not, but something that's man-made can be carried on and made worse by Mother Nature and just our biology and how we interact with each other. The natural part of the world can take something that's man-made and something that we've created and exacerbate it and make it 10 times, a billion times worse. So that's scary too. So
going deep on the things that can happen, but it's such a real life example of, dude, this shit's real. Like, it happens. You can't do anything about it. You just got to weather the storm, which is something too I feel like we've gotten soft about, right? Yeah. Everybody kind of acted like we should have done more for COVID. I feel like we should have just accepted the fact that, like, you can't be ready for everything and shit happens, and hindsight's always going to be 2020, and we just got to come together and get through this, which I think a lot of people did, and there's probably some benefit to that. But I think a lot of people too just kind of sat around and complained.
Yeah.
It's like whenever you were a kid and like you fell off your bike and scraped your knee, like, yeah, it hurt, but you still like ride your bike and stuff. You just kind of take it as, that's part of it.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's just the risk you go through whenever you do things. And I feel like now we want to pad up those knees every time we go out and say, okay, it happened once, it's never going to happen again, or never let it happen to begin with. But that's not how you get tough. We're not gonna,
No.
we're gonna hurt ourselves in the long run. I feel like.
No, I feel like, and I hope that it's the case. I do think to a certain extent it is, that this last year and the whole pandemic and we're talking about global warming more and the effects we have on our world and the effects that the world has on us, and that we're able to kind of realize that we're not in control all the time. Most of the time we're not. We think we are.
That we can actually control.
Yeah, we can have the facade that we are, we have some control over our lives, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to, like, a couple days ago, I had a flat tire. There was something in the road at that moment in time where I'm driving over it and it pops my tire and it changes my whole day. Whether I wanted it to or not, there's nothing I could have prevented it. I couldn't have predicted, hey, let's maybe go into this lane because there's something sharp in that lane. There's no way of me knowing. And that's just like a small example of, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what kind of chance is going to come across your desk or come to your door and go, hey, we're going to change things up a little bit. You thought you were going to do this today, or you thought you were going to do this, here in like the next month or so, but no, let's switch that up.
No kidding. And for some people, it's drastic. For some people, it's your mom just died in a car accident.
Absolutely.
Like, not to go too dark, but some people have it a lot worse than a flat tire. Some people can't afford to get the flat tire fixed, and that's their only way to get to work. And how can they get to work if they've got a flat tire? Maybe they don't have a donut or whatever. They're just going to be on a donut for a couple months. Like, some people don't even have, the abilities to get out of that, and it really can affect them.
Dude, so, I was gonna start this podcast like this. Just one side note: if there's anybody that just really doesn't like me and slash my tires, let's talk about it. Let's just talk. I'm a reasonable guy. I take my truck.
Did it look like that?
I take my truck in to get the tire fixed, and I was hoping that I could, get it patched up. But if tires, if it's slashed on the sidewall, there's no repair. You have to replace it. It just is what it is. And so the guy, I'm sitting in the waiting room. The guy goes, does his thing, comes back. And he's like, hey, man, the sidewall, it's got a pretty big slash in there. We're going to have to replace it. He's like, it kind of looks like there's someone got a knife and it's like a pretty clean cut. And I was like, dude, I have no idea. Someone might be after me, or somebody might not be happy with me. I don't know. I hope I didn't think I had that many enemies, but maybe I do. But man, just all jokes. Yeah.
Did you come out of your apartment and find it slashed, or
no?
Find it flat?
I drove to work in the morning and went through all day of work and was leaving. And at 4, so I get in at 7. I leave at 4. I go out there and the tire pressure is at 17 psi, which a tire is usually supposed to be at about 35. At least our trucks are, and it was at 17. So the hole wasn't, it was leaking fairly slowly. It wasn't all the way to 0.
Yeah.
So there's a QT down the street from my work, and I know that they have free air. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to, it's literally a mile away. So I was like, I feel pretty comfortable just driving slow, and let me go air my tire up. That way I can at least get back to Fort Worth. Because I was thinking, okay, it's not that big of a hole. Maybe I can make it. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear it. So I go air up my tire. I drive to Fort Worth, and then that next day, I just texted my boss the day before when it popped, and I was like, hey man, there's no way I'm gonna get to work. I gotta go get my tire fixed. I'm not gonna be at work, but I'll be working from my laptop. And I go out that morning to go take it to the shop to get it fixed, and it was completely flat. And so I had to switch it out, change it real quick. It was a pain.
I feel like if someone slashed it though, I would think it'd make a big enough hole that it would.
I mean that was a joke.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. I wouldn't be surprised. People are dicks, dude.
Maybe they didn't have enough.
Park too close to them.
But it got worse. It by the time I got back home, I think the slash got a little bit bigger for me driving on it. It was like a 25-minute drive to back home.
I used to keep plugs in my truck, glue plugs for tractor tires and stuff, because I worked at a construction place that had them. So I had a pack in my truck just in case. I need to get some of those because
that would have been useful.
That's kind of a shitty thing to have to deal with.
And it's not cheap either. I spent a little less than $200 on this one tire, and the thing is, I had a couple years ago, I had gotten a tire replaced at when I lived in Austin. I was driving through construction and popped a tire, and that one was worse. I mean, I was watching it drop dramatically. Luckily, I was like a mile away from home. But I had to get that same tire that replaced that time. I had to get that one replaced. So it's just this one single tire that just keeps rotating into another one. So
now you got a new tire on there.
I got that
thicker tread and everything.
Those tires or whatever. Yeah. So one tire has like significantly thicker treads.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a thing where you just never know. That's a light example of what
things you're gonna run into. What
can change? Sometimes tornadoes can be going on during a podcast when you're planning on recording.
Less Mother Nature like, but whenever I was in high school, I came out one day to find my truck was keyed all the way down the side of my white truck, like multiple streaks, like not just one person went all the way down with a streak, like one streak 3/4 of the way, another one like halfway, like offset. They kind of
that's a vindictive action.
Intentional, for sure.
Who'd you make mad, Ben?
Oh, I might have been an ex-girlfriend. I don't know. I have my speculations. I'm not going to go into details, but I went and had it like quoted to see how much it would cost. $1,600 to get it to get the paint
for them to
blended back over, and I was like, "Yep, I'm not going to fix that." So I had it all through college and everything until I bought my more recent truck. It just always had big old key marks all the way down the side, and I was.
But you know what? This put things in perspective. I was going to the grocery store, and this was after the fact. So I run into a couple that lives at my apartment who I'm friends with, and they were like, "Hey, like, how's it going?" and stuff. We're chatting for a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah, like, just got a flat in my tire. Had to go get it fixed or whatnot." And they're like, "Dude, like on our way here, we saw this wreck where this truck had like I guess mulch in the back, and someone slammed into the back of it. Mulch went everywhere. The whole bed of the truck slammed in." I was like, you know what? My day's not that bad.
Yeah, it could have been worse for sure.
Yeah,
could have been
like,
a lot worse.
I will deal with a popped tire.
Yeah, you could have got hit and ran, like we've both had happen before. But you could have like not caught them, or who knows, whatever could have happened. This is like super off topic, and we haven't talked anything about what we planned on talking about. But I did say that I would tell you what I was afraid of whenever I was young.
Oh, what's up?
Raccoons. I don't know why I had this. It was a weird fear though. Like I wasn't afraid of raccoons if I just saw them like kind of out at night. Like I used to hunt them with my brother and my grandpa, or we would trap them and shoot them and hunt them because he had emus and chickens and goats and stuff, and the raccoons would get in and eat all his emu eggs and eat his chickens and kill them and stuff. So we had to trap them and get rid of them. Anyway. But we lived in a neighborhood, like a real suburban neighborhood, and on our back porch, we had a tub of dog food. We had dog in the backyard and tub of dog food out there that we'd feed him out of. Well, our whole we had like a big section in the back of our house that was all glass, right? And our dining table sat in front of it. It was real nice. And one night, we just I turned on the porch lights. I was coming through the kitchen. Like I remember this so vividly, and I looked at the lights, at the light outside through the window. And there was just a raccoon sitting there on top of the dog container, just grabbing dog food with his hand and eating it, and like just looking at me. And I was only like 5 feet away from him, but there was a glass window in between us, And like he knew that he was safe. Like he knew that I had to go to the door, open the door, like, and he would take off. But he just looked at me, and like I swear, he just like looked into my eyes as this creepy little raccoon is just. They have hands, right?
Human-like,
thumbs. They have these long fingers and just grabbing just a handful of dog food, shove it in his mouth, cheeks full, just munching, just looking at me like, "Sup? Like, what are you doing?"
Dude,
and I was a kid, and it scared me. Like it, not like gave me nightmares, but like I just was like, "Oh shit!"
I'd rather not deal with these.
Yeah, and like from then on, I was just kind of like, "Oh, like I'm just not a fan of raccoons." Like. I'm okay with them. I'm not going to freak out and make a big deal. But yeah, just kind of like that bad feeling. That was one of those things that was weird to me, just that one moment. And from then on, I was just not a big raccoon fan.
I'm trying to think of the movie Cujo, which is, who's the author that makes all the scary, who writes all the scary books. Anyway, Cujo, pretty famous movie. And it's about a dog that gets rabies, and there's like a woman and a kid involved and stuff. Anyway,
and an Old Yeller too, right?
Yeah. So at the beginning of this movie, I'm trying to remember correctly. I don't know if it was there was a raccoon, I believe, maybe that Or maybe I'm thinking about Old Yeller. I remember there's a movie with a dog that a raccoon bit the dog, and that's how the dog got rabies, and then that's how like it goes mad. The Cujo, it's about the big mountain dog or whatever. It's not a Bernese mountain dog, but it's the one that you always see kind of with like the it's like a barrel or whatever on its neck. It's like in the snow. You know what I mean?
Always has a barrel on it.
Yeah, it always has like a little barrel with like a little cross on it, like the little medical cross. You know what I'm talking about?
Not a clue.
It might be a Bernese mountain dog. Anyway, it's a big, massive dog in the movie, and it gets bit by what I believe is a raccoon. And
kids rabies.
So like, yeah, raccoons, don't mess with them. You don't have to, and they're weirdly human-like.
Yeah, they're creepy as hell. Real off topic, continuing it, but you want to hear a crazy story? I was with a couple of cousins of mine, maybe aunt, uncle. We were at this place that some relatives own, and we called it the Hill, and we'd go out there, and it was just like a big plot of land. They had a house out there. We'd have cookouts. Everyone it was a hangout spot for my family growing up, right? So we went out and we were going rabbit hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just have like a bunch of land, a bunch of hills, and you just kind of hike it with shotguns, and we were just like hunting rabbits. So we shoot a rabbit and we bring it back and we hang it up, and sorry if this is graphic, it's not bad, but we skin it, and we were going to cook it. Like, we were just some kids, but like, you eat what you kill, and we were all kind of interested in it, but not like super interested. But,
yeah.
We're going to cook the rabbit.
Right.
So anyway, it's hanging up, and we're skinning it, and we're kind of standing around it, and we're pretty young at the
Saint
time.
Bernard. Sorry, Saint Bernard. That's the dog.
Oh,
that's
okay.
dog.
Yeah. Saint Bernard.
Big mess dog. Sorry. Go ahead.
I get you now.
Yeah.
yeah, I get you now. Anyway, so we got the rabbit hanging up. We're skinning it. We're standing around it. I was maybe like 13 at the time. I don't know, maybe 15. And I want to say Barry was with me and my cousins, and we were just all standing around the rabbit. Well, my little cousin was out there with my grandma, and he was only like a year or two old, so he was just kind of standing there, and she was holding him, maybe a little older than them. And anyway, he's like, Granky, like, there's a puppy. And she like looks down, and she starts yelling, and she's like, fox. It was a gray fox, and it was biting on his shorts and tugging on his shorts right next to where we were at. It had come out from under a car that was right next to us. And we're like, oh crap, there's a fox. So like, it's like kind of growling and freaking out. Like, it's very chaotic. And I run around to the truck, and I grab a shotgun, and the fox is like kind of taking off across the yard, and I shoot it, and like I killed it. And my grandpa took it and put it in a bag. And he sent it to Austin to have the head tested, and it came back positive for rabies. And that's why it was like not afraid of us. It was the middle of the day.
Yeah.
It was being very weird.
Mm-hmm.
So like my cousin had to go in and get rabies shots, which now apparently they've come a long way, and he was like really good about it as a little kid. But used to, it was like, I've heard very painful shots in the stomach to get rabies shots. I don't know what kind he got, but anybody that basically dealt with it had to get shots. Luckily, my grandpa like immediate was like, hey, that's weird. Nobody go near it. Nobody touch it. Got gloves on, trash bag, went and collected it and sent it off to be tested. And like everybody was okay. But it's kind of just a crazy experience. And it just came from like what you were saying with like rabies coming from animals. That's a real thing too. Like people's dogs get it. People can get it. We got it kind of handled now with technology, modern,
you'd have to really neglect
whatnot.
You getting bit to like it basically kill you.
Yeah. And anybody that comes in like any type of contact, even with bats, I think they're a big carrier of rabies, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody kind of touches one or whatever, you pretty much go ahead and go to the doctor. And
dude,
get
I got my
shots.
whole story just screwed up. On Cujo, it's a bat that bites the dog.
Is it a bat?
Yeah. It's a bat for sure.
I've heard that's a thing.
Yeah, it was a bat for sure.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, if we're on topic, we're on the topic of off topic today.
Yeah, we are. But this is good because this is like, I mean, these are the kind of conversations you and I have sitting around. I'm sure a lot of people do with their friends and family and just people they hang out with. You never know where it goes. And well, we did have a couple things to talk about. Oh, you want to give a crypto update?
For sure.
On the old Dogecoin?
So, I mean, kind of just in the crypto world in general, kind of it's been active, not necessarily in a good way. Doge has been steady strong. There hasn't been a whole lot of dip per se. It has dipped a little bit, but it's all perspective. It dipped down to like what you said earlier, about 25. But that's, we used to think it dipped low whenever it was down below 10 cents, and it would drop down to like 4 when it was supposed to be at 8. Right. You know what I mean? So, but I'm happy with it at, that's the low point.
on
It's
a
25.
week to week basis, it's steadily climbing.
Steadily climbing.
And it makes significant jumps, and then it falls, but it doesn't typically fall back below where it started.
Mm-mm.
So it's just kind of on a path to continue growing.
It hits a floor, and the floor just keeps steadily rising up
exactly.
and up. And you have these big spikes. And again, Dogecoin is a one-off. It could literally bust at any time. No one will know when that's gonna happen, if that's gonna happen, whatever. But so far, it's had a very trustworthy trend going on.
I don't have scared money in it like I used to.
Yeah.
Which makes it a lot easier to kind of hold your money in it, which helps everybody in general because then people hold. And then a lot of new things are starting to come out. Elon's really been tweeting about it more. He's about to go on Saturday Night Live. I know that Mark Cuban talked about it on the Ellen show. Like there's a lot, it's getting a lot of kind of publicity that's going to continue to grow it and like kind of hold it firm and give it those higher and higher floors. Now, I think it is interesting that everybody is talking about companies starting to accept crypto for like purchases, right? And the Dallas Mavs accept their jersey sales in it, and so do the Houston Rockets now, I saw. So both of those teams have like put out that I don't know if they're already accepting Dogecoin or if they're like going to. They've just like announced it, and people are talking about like how significant it would be if Jeff Bezos comes through with Amazon and says that they're going to start accepting it. But what's interesting to me that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and if somebody understands it better, please like write us in. You can message us on Instagram at Restless Minds Podcast, or you can email us, restlessmindspodcast@gmail.com, whatever. Let us know your thoughts or what your predictions are or how this works. But essentially, if I were to say I'm going to sell a good to you and I'm going to accept a cryptocurrency, whatever it is, but let's use Dogecoin right now for the scenario. If I'm going to sell it to you, it's $20. Well, then I say, okay, if Dogecoin is selling at 50 cents, then I need X amount, or 30 cents that it's at now. I need X amount of Dogecoin to equal $20. That's what the price is. Yeah. But that price fluctuates all the time, right? Even throughout the day, like at certain hours of the day, that price is fluctuating. So the price of Dogecoin. So do you fluctuate the price of your good as well? Or do you just say this is the price and it's going to range, say if it's $20, it might range from $17 to $23 within a week.
Yeah.
Right? Because of the price of Dogecoin. If you were to say it's going to be X amount of Dogecoin and just leave it there. Yeah. So people would start to buy on different trends whenever it was going to be lower. Like I noticed that it usually dips during the middle of the night and then spikes early in the morning. Yeah. So if I was going to buy something, I'd want to buy it in the middle of the night. Right. But then another thing is how quickly can that cryptocurrency be transferred from my wallet to a company or a seller and into their bank account in US dollars. Yeah. Because during that time, the value of that coin's going to change a lot.
Here's the thing. So on that first thing you talked about of, if I'm trying to make a transaction using Dogecoin or whatever crypto, crypto fluctuates a lot no matter what day it is. And how do you gauge that on what a price of a good is? And if you're wanting to transaction it with a crypto, well, if you think about it, countries' dollars and currency that fluctuates too.
Yeah, but in a different sense.
It's a different sense, and it's not as extreme, but it does. And so, it's not an abnormal, thing to have to deal with when you're talking about what the value of a dollar is, or the value of a yen, or the value of a peso. Those all currency rates, exchange rates, they fluctuate all the time. Which is crazy. It's weird, and I'm sure that's just obscenely complicated.
It is, but think about it more on the level in the sense that if I give you a $20 bill, or I Venmo you $20, we both have the same confidence that $20 is going to be worth $20 a day and worth $20 in a week. Right. So it really doesn't matter how long it takes to get from your Venmo account into your bank account, from your bank account to buy food or whatever. We're confident that $20 is basically still going to be good for the next year, right? For the next 2 years, 5 years, however long. We don't have that kind of confidence in this kind of crypto because it fluctuates so much. Now, a big part of it is because there's not enough people in it and moving in and out of it to kind of stable itself out, you know? But even we see it with Bitcoin, right? That has a ton of investors, a lot more than Dogecoin has. Yeah. And a lot higher market cap and is at a lot higher rate and is a lot more stable. It still fluctuates incredibly. Even in the last couple of years, it's fluctuated by thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. So I just don't understand how those kind of transactions work. And maybe honestly, because I think Robinhood's supposed to put out, which is like what I use. I think they're supposed to put out a crypto wallet soon, and then you're able to make purchases with it. And maybe I just need to find something relatively cheap that I can just buy to just see how it works, because I haven't done that. And that's what I'm saying. If you've done that process, let us know what your experience was, or if you know anybody. But I'm really interested to see how that would work, because it seems unfeasible, but I know there's just a ton of people pushing for it that I feel like it's going to happen.
When it becomes more accepted, I think that, like what you said, it becomes a little bit more stable. It doesn't fluctuate as much whenever there's a lot more people on board. When you're talking about the speed of transactions, that's what crypto, some crypto versus others, that's why they say we're better than the other guys, because the way we use blockchain and the way that we transaction these things back and forth from person to account, whatever it is, some are better than others. And so
they're just more transactional.
They're more transactional. There was a really cool, it was between, I think, Ethereum and Bitcoin, I believe, and it was like this visual representation. It was like a little video, and it was a train. It was like a train station. So like you have like an above view of a train station. You're watching one train line is Ethereum, the other one's Bitcoin, and you're seeing people come in and out of the train. The train would leave, come back, people would come in, come out, and it's a visual representation of how fast people on like the train Ethereum, how fast it drops people off and people get on, and it takes off, comes back. And while Bitcoin is kind of more, it's a lot slower visually. There's people that come out, there's a lot of backup, there's a lot of people waiting to get on the train. So it was like a cool representation of like, this is kind of how you visualize the difference between the two and why Ethereum is better. I don't know the theory behind that as to why it is the way it is and the difference between the blockchains and stuff. That's well above my head. But that's kind of like how they sell one versus the other and why one's, better than the other.
Yeah.
That is the method on how it transaction functions between a person to person or entity to entity. It's faster than the other, it's smoother, it's safer, or whatever it is. And so what makes it weird is because if you think about it, when you're talking about regular currency, not crypto, you don't think about those types of things. And I mean, maybe to a certain extent that through certain means and banks and how, if I'm sending money over to China and it's dollars, maybe it's the way it functions, the way it gets converted and who handles it as it goes over there. There's a lot that happens and there's better ways to do it versus the other. I don't know, but it's a different realm. Yeah. And you're seeing these very high profile people supporting it and saying it's not going anywhere. Crypto itself is not going anywhere, whether it be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, whatever. It's, those might go away, but the crypto itself is staying. Like it's going to be a thing forever.
It certainly seems that way right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And there's not a whole lot telling us otherwise, but I do think at some point it's going to start to be so accepted that the government agencies will start to step in and do what they can to essentially de-risk it. Yeah. Kind of the way they try to regulate the stock market. Mm-hmm. Exactly. They're going to start to regulate it in a sense to make it less volatile, more, capable for kind of what the intentions are, which right now, like, what are the intentions of having crypto, right? It's kind of like an investment type thing. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of talk about some of the pollution side of things due to the energy consumption to be able to generate and mine these Bitcoin and stuff. So there's definitely they're going to have to step in and do some regulations. But I feel like we will start to see this push to a worldwide type currency and
unified
making transactions. Yeah, which is interesting, which is really cool. Right, because I don't want everybody I don't like that we have to use US dollars here and pesos whenever we go to Mexico and yen whenever we're in China. And like, that kind of sucks. Like you want to be able to order like in crypto dollars or whatever you want to call it, whether it's Bitcoin that they're selling in or whatever, and not have to worry about, like I see things with mountain biking that'll pop up that are in euros instead of US dollars because there's a really big mountain biking scene there. And I'm like, okay, I got to go and type in and do a quick conversion. And like, it's not a big deal, but I would like to see everything come together. I feel like we should get like that that kind of same page with a language too.
Right.
Because that's a huge barrier if I'm going to go to China, which nowadays the transportation to get there is so accessible that we should start incorporating something in our schools as our next generations are growing up that we can all communicate. But maybe we won't have to worry about it because maybe Elon comes out with the Neuralink or whatever, and we just kind of can communicate through that.
You just know.
Right now, it's pretty easy to communicate with Google Translate. Whenever I was at Amazon, I worked with a lady that only spoke French, and she used Google Translate for you to tell her what to do. It was very inconvenient, and it's not something that you want to do for a business meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
But as far as giving general direction and giving
Quick
feedback from questions, it was doable. It worked. This is not something you could have done 5 years ago, even. You know, not at the user-friendly way that you're able to.
Yeah, not
now.
the efficiency. There was actually a cool app. I think it was Google. They have an app where if you just point the camera at the sign that's in a different language, it'll translate it and put it in text form so you can read it like instantly.
I've seen that.
Yeah, which is really cool. No, you made a really good point of just having the world be a little bit more homogenous. When it comes to especially currency, I think we're a little bit more privileged. I've only gone to Mexico, which is, going out of the country light version.
Right. I'm with you too.
But the dollar is accepted mostly everywhere. So we're lucky in that instance where we don't really have to worry about is someone going to accept. There's very few places in the world that won't accept an American dollar because it's so strong.
Well, that
currently.
and we cater to buyers. As a seller will cater to a buyer, right?
Right.
Because they'll do the back end work to transfer the currency over to whatever they need it to be.
And so I've going to Mexico, for instance, which is what we're fixing to do here in a couple months. I've heard it go both ways where you shouldn't convert. You should always carry around American dollars because it's going to be accepted more. People are going to want it more, especially cab drivers or if you tip somebody, whatever, they're going to want American dollars versus the peso. But then I've heard the flip side of that where it's like, well, if you're only playing with American dollars, sometimes they'll screw you a little bit sometimes because they know you're not going to do the conversion. A lot of them have little calculators on them on hand, and the conversion's weird. It's right now or when I went a couple months ago, it was $1 equals 19 pesos. So it's not something you can just kind of quickly do. It's a little weird when you're talking about because things are worth 100 pesos, 1,000 pesos, whatever. Yeah,
it's not like a 10-time multiplier that you can just knock a zero off in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
So that goes both ways. It's like, okay, do I want to convert? And I ended up not. I just used my American dollars while I was there. So that's Mexico. That's right in our backyard.
How often does Mexico the exchange rate change? Do you know?
It fluctuates on kind of like what crypto is, just whatever it's worth. So I think it was Venezuela. Venezuela is having massive issues. You can't even fly there right now. Their economy is just dog shit. It tanked hard. There's a guy, I watched a video of a guy, and I'm pretty sure this is Venezuela, but there's a guy outside on the street, and he basically he had stacks of Venezuela cash, just stacks of it. And he goes, and he's from there. He's he lives there and stuff. And he was making bags out of it. He was stitching them together, making bags.
Cheaper material.
And he was like, if this was worth what it used to be, I would be a multimillionaire.
Wow. But
it's worth nothing now. And that's how fast it can tank.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a smaller country. That's a lot more unstable.
But I wonder
part
if
of the world.
That may be the mindset with. The sellers in Mexico have a little bit more faith in the U.S. dollar than they do the peso.
Right, and that's the argument of why you shouldn't and why it's easier just to have American dollars because everybody's going to accept it because we have a strong faith in our dollar that it's going to hold its value versus maybe some other country that's going through turmoil. And you see that a lot. You see that a lot in like African countries, South American countries, Venezuela right now. Their version of their currency can be worth almost nothing in a matter of weeks, or if there's a dictator, if there's an overthrown government, just whatever. It's not, and that's the weird thing, man. And crypto has really made me think about this. It's what are things actually worth?
They're only valuable because we give them a value.
Because we give them a value.
Yeah.
The dollar.
We say it's worth $1.
Yeah,
we just say it.
And the paper dollar is not. that's not worth anything. It's not going to do anything for you. It can't save you when you're in a predicament.
That's why people buy
can't
gold
eat it.
and silver, you know.
Yeah, but even then,
metals,
like it's like
even that, yeah.
What back then gold was used.
If we just stop liking gold, like
yeah.
What if some new element comes along, or everybody just is like, you know what? I really like sterling silver or stainless steel. Like, just get a good polish on it. It's nice.
Yeah. Well, like diamonds.
Not worth it?
Diamonds aren't like super rare.
Yeah.
Diamonds are pretty around the world. They're pretty readily available and they're easy to get to, relative to a lot of other emeralds and stones. And they can be recreated. They can be copied. There's versions of them that aren't real diamonds, whatever you want to call them.
Cubic zirconium?
Yeah. And so it's like, what is the value of like we just give it a value.
Yeah, we just say that's what it's worth, or that's what it costs.
Yeah. And there's like that conspiracy where it's the whether it be society that did it or the wedding industry gives value to these things to make money, even though they might not be worth that much. But yeah, I remember hearing that diamonds aren't something that's super rare, but yet they're valued like they are, just because people give it value. People want them. There's status attached to it. It's just like anything else. It's abstract at the end of the day.
Yep.
Mostly everything is. And that kind of if you really start thinking about it, that freaks you out a little bit. It should.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, like what I thought was reality and what I thought was it isn't it, Like the dollar, it could, there's these talks where the dollar's not going to be worth anything, in our near future.
This kind of conversation, these thoughts make me want to move more and more money over to cryptocurrencies, because used to, right, if you were going to start having a savings, money that you don't plan on spending, not day-to-day transactional money, just extra money that you start putting to a savings.
Yeah.
You put it in a retirement fund, or you would put it in like a savings account. You would invest it, right? It's essentially investing in the stock market, but in a form that you're confident that is going to grow, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of your intentions. It's not fast. It's not anything rapid, but it's kind of secure that you are going to be able to continue to make your money make a little bit more money for you in a safe way.
Way more than in a bank.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying is like you'd put it in a bank, because some banks too will set you up and let you basically distribute it across different
mutual funds and
things like that. But it's all on the general assumption that it's going to continue to make money. It's going to be worth more in 20 years than it is today. So it's better than keeping cash. That's what I kind of feel like crypto is right now. And so we've already seen Bitcoin. Obviously, it's only been a few years, but we've already seen it really grow significantly.
Yeah.
We haven't seen people that really have held out lose a bunch of money in it. Like, it obviously fluctuates, but if you're talking about dollars that you're really not planning on touching for another year, at the minimum, if another 20 years, 30 years, it's a pretty safe thing to start putting into. We're seeing a lot of people become really rich off of it with relatively low risk. Like, I understand at some point a bubble could pop, but also at some point, we could have another Great Depression. The American dollar could bust and we could not be worth anything. Those kind of things could always happen. So is it a good idea to put it in crypto? And especially if it's something like, Dogecoin may be a little too risky. Bitcoin kind of seems like it's still got some growth. Experts are saying it's going to hit 100 grand. You're talking about doubling. If you put 20 grand in there and in the next year or so it doubles to 40 grand, that is impressive returns. Like, that's unheard of.
You're not going to get that return really anywhere else.
No, it's unheard of. And like, there's kind of low risk right now. It seems like it for you to put maybe some side things, but it makes me want to put a little bit more here and there. And like, Ethereum is supposed to be the crypto of the middle class, right? And it seems it's held strong even through the Bitcoin ups and downs.
Yeah.
And Dogecoin started as a joke, but right now, like, we're all sitting in it pretty comfortably. Like, not a whole lot in there. It's like, it's worth more to leave it in there and just see what the chance is than to pull it out, because you're not really losing a whole lot because we kind of got in early. But it makes me want to kind of put more and diversify a little bit and treat it as like a fund that you're just letting grow and kind of funneling some side money in here. Like, I wouldn't go switching your life savings over to it, but people did. And it's paid off for tons of people. It's made people millionaires. It's made people significantly more wealthy than they ever were before.
Yeah.
And you are essentially in control of it. You can pull it out if you're worried about things. You can do your due diligence and stay up to date with what's going on in the news and what the expectations are. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but you do have control, and you can set limits and say, if it doubles, I'm just going to pull it out and take my earnings and go. But the more people that start to have these kind of thoughts and this kind of idea of what the possibilities are and seeing, oh man, Blake's making money on crypto. Ben's making a little bit of money on the little bit of crypto he's put in. Everybody keeps talking about it. It's all over the news. Like, it's going to bust. It's not going to bust. But like right now, it's kind of growing. More people get that thought in their head, start putting money into it, and that's just going to feed it. That's just going to make it grow because that's how it grows.
And it'll be more stable because more people are involved and trust it and have money in it.
And everybody starts to benefit. So when they benefit, they want to put more in. And putting more in makes everybody keep benefit. It's
here's the thing,
how
though.
That even works.
People our age, I think, are going to be the driving force, if it takes the trend and it continues on from here. But we're accepting it. We know about it. It's readily available through these certain apps that we can. People that are older than us, our parents or our grandparents, they're not really.
Generally
speaking, there's people all over the spectrum of age that are involved in this. But when you're talking about the majority, I think as time goes on, we're going to be the ones that really adopt it and trust it. And we're just like everything else, technology related.
Yeah.
We just get used to it where phones are something that we always carry around, but then our grandparents might still have a flip phone.
Yeah. It's second nature for us to go throughout our day and utilize all this new technology.
Yeah.
Did your headphones die?
No, one ear's kind of weird, but anyway. So I think as time goes on and people our age get into a place of having a lot more income or a lot more money to play around with, and then the people that are younger than us, obviously they're seeing crypto. It's on social media like no other. TikTok, I see videos pop up on my feed about crypto and stuff all the time. And so they're being exposed to it. They're, seeing like, oh, like crypto's a thing. Like, so it's going to be in their head whenever they start making money. And even when they become adults, people that are, 10 or below, when they become adults, start making money, that's just going to be more of a thing that they're comfortable with, that they've heard, that people do, and they're going to put money into it. And so it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing.
Our world revolves around money at the time being, right?
Yeah.
And no one likes missing out on making more money, especially if they don't have to really work for it, especially if it's getting to a point where it's relatively low risk, where it's socially acceptable. Yeah. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's expecting. I mean, that's how it is with putting money in the stock market. It's very socially acceptable. It's strongly encouraged. That is what it is. Now, of course, the government's already coming in, doing their part and trying to raise the taxes on capital gains and things like that, which you got to start figuring out what do you got to do tax-wise for the money that you make off your crypto. Make sure that you're covered with the IRS. The government's going to take their cut no matter what it is. If there's money to be made, they're going to show up knocking on that door with their hand out. Yep. And that's part of it. But that's also a sign that it's serious, that it's legit, that people are starting to put protections and policies in place, and people are going to start doing a little bit more here.
And I think the government is a little uneasy about it too, because it's not under their control. I don't think they have a lot of people, like including us, don't have a real grasp on where this thing is going. It's like almost like it's got a mind of its own.
I think that's why there's a lot of haters.
Yeah.
Too. There's a lot of professional haters that really are not about like Dogecoin and stuff whenever it's obviously making people a lot of money, and like smart people understand the risk and still support it. Mm-hmm. But these other people I feel like are kind of hating on it because they're like,
they don't understand it.
They don't understand it.
Yeah.
And they can't control it, and they didn't expect it. And they probably missed out a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, well,
it hurt.
I'm gonna miss out, but I know that it's gonna crash at some point. Like whatever. Like,
that's human nature to do that shit.
Oh, it is.
To go. Oh, I didn't get in on the party, and I see everybody else being successful with it, and this is not what I'm used to. So this is not going anywhere.
Dude,
and trying to convince people to join
your
lonely party because you didn't get into the big one,
dude. And then they want people to fail. They want people to lose everything so they can say, I told you so. I didn't lose it. I didn't lose my money. I'm not stupid. I didn't put it in Dogecoin. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But like, I even have feelings like that from time to time where like, no, I'm not like that extreme with it. But there are times where like it kind of pops in my head. It's like, damn, like, yeah, it just sucks missing out. Like,
that's human nature. You can't.
That's just part of it. But
you have the ability to control it.
Like overall, I'm like, I love seeing and hearing stories of people like getting rich. Like it's changing people's lives.
Yeah.
That one didn't really have a whole lot of like chances to change their lives otherwise, or just it's just a positive impact for them, right? Mm-hmm. They're just going about their life. They've been kind of stacking some money on the side. They put it in as an investment, and it's paying off for them. That's really cool, especially that I have like close friends that are making good money on it, considering how much like money they have, right?
Yeah.
If you start doubling and tripling and quadrupling and like you're talking about 400% growth in your money, that's significant. Even
Very.
if you just put $500 in there, you
Very
know?
significant.
And it's so exciting to see that bless people's lives. And you kind of got to see that in a really cool sense with your mom. If you want to talk about that,
for sure. So like what I said earlier, people that, you know, our parents and maybe grandparents or just, you know, people that are older than us don't really know, they're not in tune with, they maybe hear about it. They're like, oh yeah, crypto. Like I always hear about it, but it's not on their mind. It's not something that they choose to pay attention to. My parents are one of them. But when I first got into Dogecoin, I was talking to them about it, and it was when me and you got in it together, and it spiked up to 8 cents from the 3 cents or whatever it was.
That was like one day. It had a huge run. We got
Huge.
super excited. Everybody
super excited
did that was involved.
I think we had $400 in there. We ended up getting like at one point a little over $1,000. So like that's exciting to experience that for the first time. So I'm telling my parents about this, and obviously it resonated with my mom a little bit. But it was like a week later, I'm hanging out with them again, and she was like, so like, are you in like that Dogecoin or the crypto or whatever? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, here's $200. Can you put some in there for me and just leave it there and hopefully make me a little bit of money? I was like, yeah, for sure. I was like, but you know, fair warning, this could go away easily. And she was like, oh, I got this as like a little like bonus thing for my work. So it's you know, it's play money. So she gives it to me. I put it in and I let it sit there. It kind of just, for a while, I just kind of forgot about it. Because for a while there, at the very beginning, I was paying probably too much attention to it. And so I was like, all right, I gotta back off from there. So I did, and I left it alone, let it simmer and let it cook. And you know, whenever it spiked up heavily again, whenever it shot up past 10 cents and just kept going, hit 40 cents. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cash out because I wanted to be able to give my mom's like earning and I was like, dude, I don't know if it's gonna drop again. Like I didn't know. A little bit of fear came over me, and so I was like,
well, you had a guaranteed great lump sum payout, right there for your mom.
For my mom, that she wasn't involved in it, she wasn't doing anything with it, but I felt like a little bit responsible with her money. I was like, I want to make sure that I get her a profit. So I pull out at 40 cents and ended up putting her $200, made about $1,000, a little over $1,000. And so I pulled it out and saw her the next day and was able to say, like, here, I gave her a little envelope of money. I go, here's your return. And she goes, well, how much is it? And I go, $1,000. And I mean, just like the grin on her face. I mean, anybody would. Like, here's $1,000. Like, that's
unexpected. She hadn't asked about it.
Nope.
She didn't know what was coming. And
nope,
it was
not at all.
To turn $200, that was kind of like extra for you. You know, she could have done bought some new clothes or done some sort of shopping or whatever with it, and then to turn it into $1,000 and be like, whoa, wow, like obviously it's kind of like addicting. Like,
yeah,
I say it's not gambling, it's a money addiction, right? Because it's like it's that little adrenaline type endorphin rush, and you're just like, wow, like that's cool. Because
cool.
It changed $200 worth of opportunity to $1,000.
And to her, she didn't really see or watch it. So like to her, it just boom into $1,000 from $200.
Great investor.
Yeah, and so I was just like, but the chance to do that, for one, my mom, I love my mom to death. She's the sweetest person that I've ever known. She's a fucking saint. And just to be able, and I've grown up watching my parents give and sacrifice, and to be able to give back a small fraction back to her was something that just, it made me so happy. Like it brought so much joy to myself. That's something I always remember. And it's something that I want to be able to do in the future. Whenever I, hopefully make the wealth that I want to. That's the real purpose behind why I want to do that, is because I want to be able to affect not only myself. Yes, obviously I want a certain life for myself, but that one experience, that was the first time I've ever done something like that, where I've been able to like give somebody that amount of money. And it was such a great feeling, man. And I want to be able to do that more. And so I'll always remember that feeling. I always want to remember that moment and that feeling. That hopefully it drives me and gives me that extra boost and motivation to go, Blake, you enjoy doing that. Like, you can continue to do that, to whatever degree. And man, that's something that I want to do. And that's where I hope I can get to in life, to where I can do that to an even extremer version of it. You know, I had at one time my parents, my mom came home and she didn't have a car. Her friend dropped her off. My dad goes, you know, where's your car? And she goes, I gave it away. And they were fixing to buy a new car or whatever. It was older. And I gave it away to somebody that needed it. And I've seen that in my life, but never had a chance to do something like that. And to be able to have that opportunity now and to feel that feeling, I understand why my parents did that their whole lives.
Yeah.
And I got to see that, and now I got to feel it, and it makes sense. And it sounds selfish in a way, right? There's no such thing.
Like you gratify yourself a little bit.
Well, it's a win-win.
You appreciate it.
Yeah,
it's a win-win.
It's a win-win, and
there's nothing wrong with a win-win.
Yeah,
not
at all.
There shouldn't be anything wrong with that.
Right, and so yeah, that was an amazing experience that this one-off Dogecoin allowed me to have, and something that I'll always. Yeah, it's fun to make money, but man, it was really fun to give it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially someone that's really close to you. I think about that every time the lottery tickets get like real high, and I'll stop and buy a lottery ticket, really just because it's like a few bucks, and I daydream for like a couple days just about what I would do if I was a multi-millionaire. Like you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars after taxes, of course. And
Uncle Sam.
Yeah. And I always think about him like it would just be so incredibly awesome to bless like my friends and family with really cool things that they really may not be able to get or have like at the time being, or just in any way possible to give experiences.
Yeah.
And not in a selfish way. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but not in a selfish way of like, oh, I'm rich, here's what I can afford, here's what I can do. But just in a way of like, dude, I love you. Like,
yeah,
you deserve this.
And not expect anything in return.
I've got the money for it. Why not? Like, oh, like group of friends out at dinner. Like, oh, why would y'all even stress about paying for this bill or this bar tab or whatever? Like, I have hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, not in a cocky way, but just like, no need for you to stress over. Like, let me bless y'all a little bit. Like, I appreciate y'all. Y'all are in my life. Like, take us on trips. Travel, be able to do things that like we can already make work, and like we will do anyway. But in a sense that it's like more of a freedom feeling to it, and being able to like bless people you don't even know. That's a big thing too. Like I would love to be able to set up like a scholarship fund and just be able to give scholarships to people that maybe are going to engineering school or something like that, or develop an entrepreneurship program at a school and fund like the building for it or something like that. That would just be really cool to give that kind of opportunity out to people. Not to mention get tax write-offs for it. So it's another win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win. I went to this, it was involved with the church that my parents go to, but it was this kind of, I don't know he's an entrepreneur, but he's a very good speaker. And I went to a 2-day seminar, and he talked about that a lot of, like, for one, the win-win-win, that's doable, and people don't think about that when you're talking about wealth, but just the ability to bless people and to affect people in a positive way and to leave a legacy. Like that was like, if I had to choose one word for his 2-day seminar, was legacy. It's to leave something to the people that follow you.
More than just yourself.
Yeah. After you're gone.
But that's a big thing.
How can you continue to affect the world in a positive way?
Right.
And so that would be tops, man. That would be the shit. To be able to do that, to have that ability to affect people in your day-to-day life, and to be able to do that even after you're gone. That's powerful. And I think that's one of the most noble ways of living, is to be able to do that. And it takes heart to do that, and it takes the right moves. It takes just the right way of thinking about money, because I don't think money's evil. I think the love of money is evil.
Yeah, I can see that.
But we can't argue that money is necessary. It's how you do everything.
Yeah.
And so I don't like when people say like, oh, money's the root of all evil. No, the love of money is the root of all evil. Because you can use money for good all the time. I think a lot
of people do. I don't really see negative effects of money. I just see people using money in negative ways. I think that's popular, and that's unfortunate. But I think that goes back to the person. It just kind of amplifies it. It gives them the chance to show who they are or what they do. And I think it's kind of important. We talked about this earlier with the crypto and the government wanting to increase the taxes and what you have to pay on capital gains, but that is going to affect investments big time.
Yeah.
People that are looking at entrepreneurs or looking at new companies that are needing investment, part of the benefit of being an investor is that you get to write off those investments you make in different forms of how you allocate basically where your spendings are and how much money you really make whenever you put money into high risk investments.
Right.
If you start taxing that too much, we're going to run into a problem where investors would rather just maybe put their money in crypto or maybe put their money somewhere else in like banks or whatever, because the payoff's not going to be worth it to put it at high risk to be able to make a lot of money through capital gains. And so then if you stop encouraging investors to take these risks and invest, because investors lose a lot of money with their investments and they hopefully can make a lot with a certain investment or a certain portfolio, like parts of their portfolio might make a lot of money to cover their other losses, but it's all still very high risk. But that is what drives our innovation, a lot of our technology, a lot of things that are making the world a better place, and a lot of people are getting opportunities through these investments to be able to create a product that changes the world, create something that saves lives, and then also benefit it in a way that they can leave the legacy that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's why government usually is where you're incentivized not to tax investments, because that's what drives innovation. You're putting money into the economy to be able to use that to create new products, develop
everything,
cities, everything. It drives.
Whenever you add more taxes to that, you disincentivize people to be strong investors.
Yeah,
you disincentivize them to put their money at risk, and that could really be a big problem, because that could halt this innovation kind of like time period that we're going through, right? Like this is a moment in time in our history where innovation and technology is growing exponentially, and we should not halt that. And I feel like that is one of the things that the president right now is pushing for with coming through and putting these kind of capital gains ideas, taxing capital gains idea more and more out there. And I understand that you want to get a little bit of it out of the crypto world. Like you want to get a little bit out of here and there. And I understand, like, I think that the government needs money to operate, and the government
against taxes.
No, I'm not against taxes. Right. The government, we need the government to do things. We need school, education, public health. Like we need roads. We need things like that. We need government. But
at
you
what
can't
level?
Be too greedy.
Yeah.
And you still have to incentivize people to keep pushing our economy forward. So it's a very, high level game of chess that we're playing.
Yeah.
And you and I don't understand it, obviously. I couldn't.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. But this is just the way I see it, and things that I've heard and things that resonated with me. And I'm like, dude, you have to be careful. And that's a big part of this political realm that we have to deal with, where people get kind of power hungry, and now that they have power, want to make all these changes. But we got to sit back and think about things sometimes.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, that our world is changing at such an exponential rate that it's freaking out these institutions that, for one, might not understand it. Like you're talking about Wall Street, who thinks crypto is shit and it's going to go away. It's a bubble, it's going to pop, which maybe. But it's more so the reason why they're saying that is because they're scared. And that's human nature to go, I don't understand this. I'm not comfortable with it. It's probably not good. And most entities, most big institutions that have been here forever and have done things a certain way aren't going to be comfortable with these new ideas and new ways of doing things and new methods on, things like currency that they can't keep up with, or they don't have the means to execute on or take advantage of. Because I guarantee you, if you're able to take advantage of something and it affects you in a positive way, you're not going to talk shit about it.
Yep.
So. Yeah,
that's how it is. That's human nature, and kind of the way that we operate through our society. It is what it is, but you got to be kind of aware of it. Dude, this is episode 20 right here.
Episode 20, man.
We appreciate y'all so much, to our listeners. A lot of friends and family and just other listeners all over kind of the country, really, from what it shows on our app that tells us, where our listeners are coming from and stuff. And we really appreciate y'all hanging in there with us and joining us every couple weeks. Sorry we're not consistent. We got a lot of things going on, a lot of exciting stuff just in our personal lives and together, but we appreciate y'all listening, and we're going to keep cranking these things out, having a good time doing it, and bringing on some guests, mixing things up as we start to get a little more comfortable, a little more professional with our equipment, things like that. So
we're developing, man. It's crazy. I mean, we've been doing this for almost about a year, give or take.
Through COVID, really. So
through COVID,
we've had a great time.
That's what spurred it. And I had this on one of the posts that we made. It was the video, and it just this allows us to, I think, have our creative side come out. It gets us thinking. It gets us out of our comfort zone, our day to day, our job, whatever we've got going on. And it allows us to, like, we have restless minds. That's not a joke. There's a reason why we chose that. Me and Ben are always thinking about things. It's sometimes annoying. It sometimes it can wear us out, but I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm glad I have this hyperactive mind that's always reaching and searching and questioning for more and just hungry for information. I'm more curious now than I've ever been. Going through school with just everything. The world fascinates me. And,
100%. So I've thought about this, and I think it's because whenever we were going through school, we are having things thrown at us constantly. So we always had something that we were forced to focus on, whatever that would be, whether it was just certain independent like classes or just our school in general as a whole, or whatever was going on relationship wise, just everything. We had a lot going on. Right now that we are a little more comfortable and a little more in like a stable environment, our minds are still kind of going with like, oh, well, like I want to learn more. I want to think about different things. And that's just how we are as people. And then being able to have like a outlet to get them out and talk about them. It's cool. It's fun. We love it. And we can't thank y'all enough for joining us.
We appreciate it, man.
Along on this ride with us.
We appreciate everybody that's listened. And when we hear, positive feedback and people asking about it, it feels good. It feels good to like know like, oh, people do enjoy it and people maybe have gotten something out of it. That's something that stretches real far with us, because I mean this is ours. It's something that we've created and we put time into and put energy into and we take seriously. I'm excited to see where this goes, what it turns into, because this is an organic thing where this is not just something that we'll just be doing this. This could be something totally different a year from now.
We enjoy it, so we're gonna keep working on it. So y'all give us a follow, Restless Minds Podcast on Instagram. Hit us up. Say hi, say what's up, tell us you like it, you don't like it, whatever. Interact with us when you can. But y'all stay tuned. We'll keep cranking these out as we can, and hopefully we'll be able to grow and everybody benefit, have a good time.
See you on episode 21. Peace.